Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending today. My name is Corey Davidson, and I oversee our internship team at the Career Center here at UNT. And Jasmine Dixon and James Granfield, who are with me today, are two of our internship specialists. So between the three of us, we are, doing as much outreach and employer involvement as we can, and we're also working with faculty and staff across campus to make sure that we're connecting you guys with all of our quality students here at UNT and making sure that our faculty and staff and individual departments and programs are able to help get their internships processed quickly and efficiently to be able to review them and get students, the experience that they're looking for while they're here. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Jeffrey.
Thanks so much. And Corey, just a real honor to be here today and to collaborate with y'all. The work UNT is doing is just so innovative and again, so much thought leadership. So I'm Jeffrey, as I said, I'm the founder and CEO of Parker Dewey. A couple of very quick housekeeping notes before we kick this off. First, the chat is open. If you have questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to use the chat. I'm usually pretty good at keeping an eye on it. As we go through, I'll try to address the questions. Again, as we go through, we'll certainly leave time at the end. We're going to try to keep this under 30 minutes, along with time for Q&A. Yes, we will share the recording, and yes, we will share the slides. After the presentation, you'll get an email either today or tomorrow with all of that. Again, I know that question always comes up. Please don't be bashful in the chat, though, if you have questions. So again, as I said, it's a real privilege to be here today and just collaborate with Corey, James, and Jasmine on this exciting initiative. For today, here's sort of the overall agenda. We're gonna cover things, sort of the quick overview. What are micro-internships? We're gonna talk about some actionable strategies you can apply right now, including some examples from other organizations. And then we'll leave some time for Q&A. So as quick background, who is Parker Dewey? Parker Dewey is an organization that's been around for almost a decade. Since our founding, we have been 100% focused on creating real experiential recruiting opportunities for employers to help them engage prospective candidates and really use a skills-first framework to see these college students in action. This experiential recruiting approach is time-tested and proven. All we've done is make it accessible for early career hiring and campus recruiting. As we'll talk about, we've removed the friction, the paperwork, the hassle that usually exists, making it super easy for you to capture the data and respond to the challenging and changing needs as you're continuing to work with the team at UNT. And this platform captures a ton of data that can really help improve early career recruiting and can't be found anywhere else. Data to help you engage candidates, align to your role, and show you how interested they are in your organization. Data that provides insights on the skills that you know are key for great hires, but are often difficult to determine in the traditional recruiting process. Again, the skills that are honed at UNT with the students, like communication, problem solving, grit. Jasmine and I were talking about student athletes earlier. Those types of skills that they bring to the table. And data that really aligns to the strategic goals of your organization, the areas that CHROs and business line leaders and even CEOs care about. And we're going to do this in a way that directly benefits the hiring managers, provides you with a ton of actionable insights, and is quite honestly how college students want to be recruited. So let's go very quickly into some of the challenges. Look, we know traditional early career recruiting is expensive and it's not really working as well as we would like. 71% of college students talk about the fact that they believe the current process, the resume submissions, interviews, career fairs, aren't letting them effectively demonstrating their skills, which is why nearly half of them leave their first job within the first year. At the same time, hiring managers really struggle to assess skills from, again, a resume or even an interview. We know the cost of getting it wrong is high, not only on students who, again, wind up either having challenges finding jobs or leave quickly, but the cost is high for employers as well. You spend a ton of money recruiting and bring people in that may not be the right fit. or bring people in that don't have the skills you're looking for. On top of it, reneges and ghosting, all of these things are taking place. So our question is, what's the plan? Instead of hoping candidates are going to stay, how can you assess fit earlier in the process? Instead of relying on static resumes, how can you evaluate candidates based upon real work? What we're going to show you is how micro-internships can let you engage and assess those candidates before making that major investment. And again, the status quo is expensive and frustrating, but it doesn't need to be. Beyond looking at the traditional playbook, companies can have candidates who are excited before you set foot at UNT, before you come to the career fair. And when they come to the info session, keeping them engaged, able to reach students who might be first or second year when they're most interested in exploring career paths in companies, or students who are perfect for those last minute requests, students who go to UNT but may have ties to other part of Texas, or maybe you're a recruiter based elsewhere and you're trying to recruit students who might be from my current town of Chicago but go to UNT. How can you reach those students and build the relationships? Or see the job readiness data on the students, helping you demonstrate the effectiveness of your program, but also collaborating more closely with Corey and the team there, providing feedback on the students and their skills. You're also able to see interest in the candidates, not just the one-click job applications, but the actual interest to overcome that application avalanche we're already dealing with, understanding who's the right fit and their level of interest. And it's not just their interest, it's insights into their skills, insights that they're sharing from short answer questions. And again, these aren't based upon GPA or major, but actual feedback from hiring managers on how they want or how they perform. These, again, real insights. And what we've done is make it easy. This is what's top of mind, and this is what we call experiential recruiting. It's the intersection of skills-based hiring and employer branding. It helps organizations cut through the noise to really reach those candidates who are aligned to their goals and provide the insights to improve the decision-making, not just hire, don't hire, but those earlier stage decisions that often rely on GPA and major. And in this economic environment, it's also vital to highlight how this provides data to demonstrate why your work is so important and to showcase it to other parts of the organization, showcasing why early career programs and the success of them are vital to the organization's strategic success. How these efforts align to AI or whatever hot topic is out there, and being able to present that data to executives and business line leaders or department heads to show how you're helping them achieve their goals. So how do we do all of this? Well, for anyone that's heard me talk before, I'm sure you've heard me talk about micro-internships. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this slide. As I said, we'll share it with all the nuts and bolts. But the key is that these micro-internships are very, very short-term projects. They're aligned to actual hiring needs of companies. They're projects that are similar to what would be given to a summer intern or a new hire fresh out of school. These are low-stakes projects and become enticing for the students to demonstrate their skills, but also give you the data to assess those skills. This is what powers the data I was showing you before, and it plugs right into the existing recruiting processes you have without adding to your workload. To be clear, these don't replace summer internships. These don't replace full-time hires. They don't replace the on-campus interviews or info sessions you're doing, but rather complement it. What's also one other thing to note on here, what's also really important is everything is designed to be easy for you. There's no administrative or HR or legal burdens. And again, we'll share these slides after and happy to talk about it. But instead of this being hypothetical, I'll show you a few examples. One of the things we do at Parker Dewey is we'll look at job descriptions for entry-level roles, like this data marketer position. We at Parker Dewey will unpack it and develop specific short-term 10, 15, 20-hour projects that align to that role, that allow hiring managers and campus recruiters to assess the skills and allow the students to demonstrate those skills. And again, these aren't projects that require onboarding or training or access to your information or systems, but things like what I showed you. We want you to create a campaign that we can use to promote our organization. We're not going to give you access to anything sensitive, but we want you to use public information and try to tease out what you think is going to be most important to a customer. Or maybe it's a production operator role. We're not going to let you work with a piece of $1 million equipment in a 10-hour project where you can lose a hand, but maybe we'll do a project where we're asking you to develop a training manual. What a great way to understand the students, not just technical skills on do they understand that piece of manufacturing equipment, but also communication skills and problem solving and attention to detail. Or in computer coding, again, you're not giving access to a core code base, but maybe you're doing research on how AI can impact coding, even within HR itself. This is something we're seeing all the time. For teams in campus recruiting, let's have a college student do research on how other organizations are recruiting on campus to tease out best practices, or write content based upon X, Y, and Z that we can use. These are all examples of projects, and again, we make it easy. And what's nice about this is as these students are completing these projects, the assessment is built into the process itself. When students are applying, you get to see, are they a self-starter? Do they have real interest in your company? Are they demonstrating attention to detail? When you select the students from the projects, how are they communicating with you along the way? Are they sending you emails that look like text messages to their buddies? Or are they sending in a professional way? Are they turning in work in a timely fashion? Again, this is skills-based assessment. It's giving you those insights that we know we can't capture from a GPA or major. Now, this all works because it's how students want to be recruited. As I talked about earlier, students want opportunities to demonstrate skills. They want opportunities to learn about companies. 75% of students talk about the fact that they want to begin career exploration before they're juniors in college. But they come to a career fair booth and they, to be blunt, hear the same things they can read on the website. And that's even if they come to the booth. And when they talk with the recruiters, they're often hearing, oh, you should just apply next year to our internship. Or this becomes a great way to introduce your organization to those students when they're most interested. And as I alluded to before, 95% of students, 95% said this is how they want to be recruited. This is how they want to demonstrate their skills. So think about all of the other efforts that organizations have. How do we get students to show up to our career fair booth? Should we have pizza at the info session to make it more enticing? Do we want to give away t-shirts or pens or something else? By giving students what they actually want, you don't have to work so hard. They flock to this. So as organizations, how can you use this? The beauty of this model is you can use it anywhere within your recruiting pipeline or funnel. And we'll go through some very specific examples in a minute. Whether you're an organization saying we don't have the brand equity and we want to drive awareness, whether you're trying to get to know students from different skills or backgrounds or majors or GPAs, great way to build the brand. Whether you're an employer struggling with the application avalanche, how do I determine who we want to spend time with, or how can we assess fit or skills? Great opportunity. Whether you have a great pool of candidates and you're looking to keep them engaged, or you're just trying to prepare for those last minute pipelines. So we'll go through some examples. First, Train Technologies. It's a global manufacturing organization, variety of different brands. One of the challenges they had was, how do we build a pipeline of candidates who are engaged and interested in our organization, especially since we don't have the brand recognition or sexiness, in their words, of a Google or an Amazon, and we're not handing out iPads at career fairs. Well, what Train wanted to do is build this pool, this always on pool of candidates. So they, one, could have that brand equity with students, but two, weren't constantly feeling like they were fighting fires to get more engaged. So what they did was they launched a campus ambassador program. And again, campus ambassador programs are nothing new, but Train was thinking about it a bit differently. Instead of giving these ambassadorships, if you will, to former interns or co-ops or employees, they were using the ambassadorship itself as a way to engage new students. They posted a micro-internship, sort of recruiting students to be ambassadors. And they did it in a way that was exciting for the student. The marketing student that never heard of Train saw the project and applied because they viewed it as marketing, or the student who was electrical engineering or mechanical engineering saw this and thought it was a great opportunity. And what it was doing was essentially, again, building this pool of candidates to go promote Train on campus, but they also had an entire pipeline of students who were also engaged. One of the key things to note about this is because it was a new program with Train, they were focused on doing it in a low-lift way with no administrative or HR burdens. We took all that off the plate. What was great is, here's some of the results. So first of all, they were able to drive more interest in their program, again, before they were going up on campus. But what they were also doing is building that pool of those who completed these micro-internships. And again, it's probably a little hard to see on the screen, James. I see you squinting at it. We'll share these later. But the point is that Train, in addition to addressing the direct needs they had right now, they had an always-on pipeline. That when they got that last-minute request from a hiring manager for an engineer with ties to the state of Indiana who just graduated, those candidates are already engaged. They're already excited. They can click through and see these. And this, because it's not just one click, I applied, because they actually have some skin in the game, you know they're actually interested. Now, while this works anywhere, Train started this program on campuses where they already had a relationship. What about for those employers who are on this call now who might not yet have the relationship with UNT, where this is the first opportunity to, quote unquote, dip their toe in the water? Global medical device company Smith Nephew was focused on that. They were very, very concerned about missing candidates because they had limited campus recruiting effort. They were partnering with local schools where they had local offices, but they worried that they were missing, again, the great candidate from UNT who was from Memphis who wanted to return home. They were using these projects to do that. They were also highly focused on student athletes, especially given Smith Nephew's sort of business doing sports medicine and other things. And what they essentially did was create small projects that aligned to business development roles that they had. They were able to target those candidates who had sort of hometown or other ties to the local offices, but may have attended school elsewhere. And these projects were used as an effective carrot, if you will, to engage the students. But the hiring managers loved it because when the students were doing sort of lead generation or create a PowerPoint presentation or otherwise, the hiring managers were able to actually see their skills before the interview. What's also important to know is in these business development roles, turnover in the first year tends to be very high, not at Smith Nephew in particular, but in general, 60, 70, 80%. By using this approach, Smith Nephew not only was able to engage the candidates, but through these auditions had a first-year retention rate of 100%, including individuals who got Employee of the Year awards, were able to, again, mutually confirm it was the right fit, being able to see those actual skills and know, again, mutually that I want to take that role. Which gets to the third example, Orange Theory. Again, a company that's probably well known. If you're like me, you have either friends or in my case, a wife who goes to Orange Theory and constantly talks about it. Well, that was great in some ways because they had the brand recognition that maybe a Smith Nephew or a Train didn't, but they were finding a lot of students weren't applying because they would see Orange Theory and assume the only roles were being at the front desk or being a trainer. Again, nothing wrong with those roles, but Orange Theory was looking for individuals for HR and finance and accounting and marketing roles. They were having trouble with it. So what Orange Theory actually did was identify tasks that always seemed to come up for hiring managers. So within HR itself, they realized one of those tasks was we need best practices in new hire onboarding. What they were able to do is the hiring manager appreciated the on-demand support from the project, but it also helped them quickly determine who has the right skills beyond the resume. And again, just to show you an example, in this case, Orange Theory selected 2 different students to research best practices for onboarding. One of those students was an HR major with a 3.9 GPA from an amazing school. The other was a general business major with a lower GPA from a less academically selective school. If you look at the 2 examples on the left, you can probably guess where I'm going to go with this. The student with that perfect GPA and that perfect major ultimately turned into work that you see on the top. There was good content in there, but they didn't really demonstrate the communication skills or the empathy or the other things hiring managers are looking for. In contrast, the student at the bottom turned in work that not only had great content, but demonstrated that empathy, demonstrated the presentation and communication skills. That student, by the way, was ultimately hired for a summer internship and then a full-time role. And as the hiring manager said, this is someone that if we followed the traditional process, she probably wouldn't have even gotten an interview. She would have been filtered out by our ATS. The next example is HCA. Again, amazing healthcare organization. They had spent years building great relationships with colleges. They were looking to deepen them. So again, for those of you on the call looking to deepen that relationship with UNT, this provides a great example. The competition is always there for entry-level talent, but in healthcare, it was particularly acute. So what HCA did was they leveraged the fact that they had great relationships with the healthcare program at various schools. But what they wanted to do is build relationships with beyond that, build relationships with the clubs, really look at the hosted events, reach students who may not have been thinking about healthcare and drive interest in it. And what was great again about it is it's so closely aligned to what they were doing on campus already. For the students who are attending the career fair, they were giving these micro-internships to keep them warm, whether it was a first or second year student to drive interest or a junior or senior to differentiate. Even before the career fair, they were highlighting that they were going to be there. What that meant is when they were going, I think this case is Florida A&M, when they were showing up on campus, they already had a pool of warm candidates, candidates who had expressed interest and demonstrated those skills. The final example is Xylem. Again, it's a Fortune 500 company, not very well known. They were, again, very focused on building brand, but also making the case internally for their early career program. Well, let's look at some of the data. They were able to go back to the C-suite and show how this aligned to corporate goals, whether it was around cost per hire, whether it was around diversity, whether it was around conversion, whether it was around alignment to specific offices. They had this data. Now, again, this works for employees because you can use it anywhere in the process, whether it's that top of funnel with engagement, whether it's about assessing skills or driving conversion. Whoops, clicked one too many times. And the data shows the efficacy. Again, these are some of the slides I get most excited about. Cost per hire, 40 to 80% savings. First year retention, north of 98%. This is just integrated into what was already in place. Helps you reach the students. So how do you get started? Well, think about the examples I gave. There's opportunities to start the recruiting season, which begins in earnest in the coming weeks with candidates who are already aligned to your goals. You can attract those candidates from UNT who are perfect but are getting missed. You can get insights on how other organizations are doing it and continue to strengthen those relationships and ultimately use the data to guide the decisions while it still counts. So with that, any questions we'll open it up to? I'll go back to this slide because it's the one I always find most compelling. James, Corey, Jasmine, questions, thoughts, feedback?
This was good information for me, I think, to share, obviously, with the team, and good points for us to kind of market to the career coaches, and to all the majors so that we can start utilizing this a lot more. I didn't realize it could be this robust or this specific. So this was a lot of good information for me personally.
Yeah, I think for me, what stood out, because I've seen some presentations before and been working with you guys for several years now, but I don't think I realized that you guys would work with the companies to look through existing job descriptions to help try to tease out some projects that would be good micro internships. So I think that's nice too for a company that maybe has an interest in doing something like this and testing the waters, but doesn't really know where to start in terms of figuring out the right project to try to hire a student for. And then just more broadly, what I've always appreciated about you guys is the fact that you're doing all of that administrative stuff for them so that all they're having to do is provide the experience, and then there's just the upfront cost of what they're going to be paying the student for the project, plus the fee to get it posted on your site, and all of that is just straightforward and clean. Makes it so easy for students as well. So I will be the first to admit that I don't think we've utilized it the way that we should, but every time I hear more from you guys, I'm like, oh, we need more.
Well, and you hit a couple of things. Again, the internal term for all of this is Jeff proof, as the team affectionately calls it. It needs to be simple enough that Jeff would use it if Jeff was at a company. And that's why we do all those things. That's why we make it simple. Again, 90% of the cost. So a company posts a project at $400, 90% of that goes to the student. And it is transparent. The student only sees that number, so there's no confusion. That 10% covers our cost of having the student on our payroll. Right. We handle all the payment. The student's under NDA. The student assigns the work to the company. And this isn't like a staffing firm, again, for the companies on here, where I work with Corey and I think he's amazing and I want to hire him for a full-time role or an internship. There's no gotcha fee. Right. There's no other, and that's what we're trying to do. The other key thing that, again, I continue to highlight for the employers here, this complements what you're already doing with UNT. You're coming to a career fair. Let's highlight the fact that we're going to be talking about micro internships at our career fair booth. At the career fair booth, when you're talking about them, students get excited. They get excited to hear what the role is actually going to be like. After the career fair, what a great way to keep them excited. We know students are blocking recruiting emails. I mean, the data is out there. They're not looking at it, but giving them the opportunity to work on a real project that aligns to that role, that's what gets them excited. And that gets you the insights that you're looking for on who's actually interested, who has the skills. It's pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. Any other questions from the group? Again, my suggestion is think about some of the suggestions we have on here. There's a QR code for those of you, again, who have a mobile device. We are happy to walk through this. As Corey pointed out, I think it was you, Corey, pointed out, one of the things we do all the time is, again, sorry, I'm going back way too fast. Sorry if I'm giving anyone a headache. Is this. We do these all the time. Send us a job description. We will give you suggestions on specific projects that are easy to implement. don't require you to share info, let you assess those skills. We've been doing this for 10 years. We're really, really, really good at it. And again, designed to be easy, designed to be easy. So with that, James, Corey, Jasmine, anything else? This concludes the webinar. We will share the deck and recording afterwards. Again, it's just such an honor to partner and collaborate with y'all. I'm excited about this. And again, for those participants, if you have other questions, feedback, whatever, please let us know. We're obviously passionate about this, so want to do whatever we can to be supportive.
We appreciate you guys scheduling this for us today.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, for coming by.
Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Happy Friday Eve. For those of you in Texas, stay cool.
Yeah, we're trying. Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.
All right.